Some cars are just so recognisable, they don't even bother having a badge on the front. And this is one of them, the Jeep Wrangler. It's an iconic sight on the road. It can take you to places other cars can't reach. And it transforms into a convertible when the sun comes out. You just instantly know what it is, don't you? It's the great-grandson of the original Willys Jeep, and it has a legion of fans. And one thing those fans do not want is for it to change. So it hasn't. It's got that same boxy shape, that industrial type feel. The flat wheel arches, the grille, the recognisable grille with its 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 slats, along with the much loved round headlamps. Now, I first drove the Jeep Wrangler in 1996. It made me smile then, and it still makes me smile just as much today. But this car isn't your average Wrangler. It's the rougher, tougher Rubicon edition with massive wheels that jack you up above the rest of the world. It has loads of off-road kit thrown at it and lots of little reminders that you're driving a Rubicon. It sits at the top of the Wrangler range above the 2-door or 4-door Sahara, and there's also a tougher overland model. Just like those cars, it comes in a choice of 2 or 4 doors. If you look closely, you'll spy more modern LED lights in the Sahara and Rubicon models, and the windscreen is tilted back a little to help with the drag. But don't worry, because it can still be folded down for the ultimate Jeep driving experience. It's true to the original in every way. Look, there's even a little Willys Jeep just there. I mean, when you look at the Rubicon, you would think it's been put together with a set of spanners and a few Allen keys, wouldn't you? It's got that kind of feel to it, and I guess that's really part of its charm. You have to live with its idiosyncrasies, of which there are quite a few. But more of those a bit later. First of all, don't forget to subscribe to the channel, and if you click on the little bell icon, you'll get a notification when our latest video has landed. And of course, you can follow us on all the usual social channels. So, the Wrangler Rubicon, a car that looks as if it's fit for anything. It's rugged, it's practical, it still feels like the kind of car you wouldn't bother to clean your dirty boots off before you jumped in. But once you get inside, look, it's really nice. This car may still come with a washable interior and drainage plugs, but this is one area that Jeep have really focused on right across the range, and it really shows in here. Look, I'm not going to call it refined because it isn't, and of course it shouldn't be, but it definitely has a really nice feel to it. Lots of soft touch materials. I like the little stitching and the use of colour in here. And when you start the engine, you get a Rubicon that flashes up in front of you. And I love this chunky Wrangler grab handle. And it's embraced the 21st century with Bluetooth connectivity. You've got an infotainment system, Apple CarPlay or Android Auto on some models. Look, it's not the most modern of operating systems, but the nav on that itself, well, it works fine. It points you in the right direction. The whole thing is a massive leap forward. And obviously this is the Rubicon, so it's meant to be a bit more rugged. In the Sahara model, which you can see if you watch Batch's video, it's even more refined. In fact, the Wrangler is a surprisingly practical car to live with, if you go for the 4-door. The 2-door version isn't quite as practical, but the family will love this 4-door Rubicon. I know mine did. And there's plenty of space along with Isofix child seat points in the back. The boot is also really practical for a family. I love the way it opens. So this bottom half swings open, which is really handy if all you're doing is loading in smaller items and shopping. Then, when you need the full space, ta-da! Up it pops. It's a really good square load area. The seats fold completely flat for more space. You can get an awful lot of stuff in here. And underneath there is another storage compartment together with this. It is a little Jeep toolkit. And in that is everything you need to transform this, because of course the doors can come off, the windscreen can drop down, the roof can come off, it can be completely transformed. And once you've done it, where do you put all your screws and your nuts and your bolts? You put them all in here, in these little storage compartments. They've thought of everything. And if you would like to see that in action, then do take a look at the video Batch has made of the Jeep Wrangler Sahara. So let's start in the Wrangler's natural habitat, off-road. It feels almost an insult to take this car with the Rubicon's credentials on the feeble car-buyer off-road track. I've driven previous generations of this car through snowdrifts at the top of the Alps, up a jungle-covered mountain in Asia, and over California's legendary Rubicon Trail where it effortlessly boulder hopped. They're all extreme off-road experiences that are some of my most memorable driving moments, and they're all here on YouTube if you fancy a laugh at my 90s style. But whilst I may have changed over the years, the Wrangler Rubicon hasn't, and it's still just as capable as it's always been. So let's have a run through on what makes it so fantastic when the going gets tough. Thanks are due to its ladder frame chassis. It may not be the most refined ride, but it works on the rough stuff. As for the axles, well, they're more in the style of those you'll find in a pickup. And of course, there are low ratio gears, locking diffs, and let's not forget those massive tyres. Well, on this Rubicon model, you get a huge front sway bar, which you can also disconnect. But even the Sahara has more off-road capability than most of us will ever need, particularly if you go for the two-door version. Out on the road, there are new engines and an 8-speed automatic gearbox, all making their debut here. It feels lighter and is more efficient than ever before. Engine choice is simple. It's a petrol or a diesel, a 2-litre turbocharged with 268 horsepower, or this version, the 2.2-litre diesel with 197 horsepower, and both are paired with that automatic gearbox. Some Wrangler fans will be disappointed that there isn't the option of a manual. This diesel is a surprisingly good car to cruise in. Get it up to about 40-50 miles an hour, and it's actually really quite nice and punchy. It'll do the motorway as well, cruise along quite nicely, and you do feel like you've got power when you want to overtake. However, refined it isn't, and that's not what this car is all about. Driving it, particularly this Rubicon, it feels a bit more like a piece of farm machinery than one of the more refined SUVs that we've come to be used to. But nevertheless, it's charming, it's fun to drive, it's got stacks and stacks of personality. There are a few idiosyncrasies though. Let me begin with the steering. It's very unusual. There's just not an awful lot of connection between the steering column and the rest of the car. It oversteers to quite a startling degree, and when you're at speed on the motorway it really does feel quite jittery. It's actually at its best driving around town at lower speeds when there seems to be a bit more weight and feel to the steering wheel. But you do get used to it and you start to compensate for that idiosyncrasy, and as I've already said, you love the Rubicon despite those idiosyncrasies. Around town, the light steering comes in handy and does make it easy to manoeuvre, whilst the reversing cameras help with the parking. Another thing that I struggle with a bit are those massive black wings at the front. It's all part of the rugged image, isn't it, that you expect from a Wrangler. But I actually can't see them. So I'm 5'4", and I literally can't see them from here. I've really struggled to get the spatial awareness of this. Parallel parking took me a while to master, and I do normally pride myself on my parallel parking. But hey, this car is built for the land of the open road and huge parking lots, so I guess that probably won't concern many owners. You do feel like you're making quite a statement driving around in the Rubicon, and it doesn't quite work on our feeble British roads, but that doesn't stop me from loving it. Yes, the price and the running costs make it hard to justify, but I don't think there are many cars on the market that have quite as much charm and history as the Wrangler. If you've enjoyed watching this video, then check out Batch's video of the Jeep Wrangler Sahara and also our SUV playlist, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel.